Efficiency, HVAC is coming next month on the 3rd, right? You definitely want to be here for that. I'm just going to touch a little bit on ventilation. And that's because it kind of completes the building envelope piece. Night ventilation cooling, everybody knows you can open the windows up at night and get cool air in. Sometimes it's fan force, like the whole house ventilation fan. You can use an evaporative cooler, kind of achieve the same thing, or just naturally by opening windows. And of course, outside air is important for human health. So there's actually requirements. I was going to talk about commercial building requirements, but there's nobody here that applies to, so we'll skip that. This is what you typically see a whole house fan look like. And these things leak like sieves. You want to talk about, you know, colanders. This is one of the biggest colanders in a home, whenever those exist. We've built insulation boxes with hinged lids and weather stripping around it in some cases. But a much better solution is something like this, where it has insulated louvers instead of louvers. I can look through, and you know, people can tell me how many. I can tell how many fingers they're holding up, and you can just feel the air rushing through there from the attic side. Let's see. Go back just one sec, please. So what this does is has insulated louvers here, and it's got a fan up here. And then this duct is like a muffler. So instead of sounding like a 747 taking off right outside your bedroom window, you got a nice quiet way of getting the air out. One of the biggest problems though I see with whole house fans is there's not enough places for the air to get out of the attic. That's a huge deal. Even professionals, when they install these, don't often think about that enough. And so then what happens? Well, this gets really pressurized, and then all those other leaks you haven't sealed yet, that hot attic air, you know, some of it comes in back into the house. Night ventilation, pretty straightforward to keep the house closed up during the day. The heat that does come in kind of gets absorbed by the interior fabric of the building. At night, you scrub all that heat out by bringing the cool air in and letting it go out. If you're lucky enough to have a 2-story home, that makes a huge difference. You might not need a whole house fan if you've got a 2-story home and you got that chimney working for you. You get lots of lower and upper windows open, and you get a natural chimney effect. With a 1-story home, not so much, but a whole house fan can really help in either case. Now here's a fan that I hate. This is a much better one. It's solar. But they're both not a good idea, typically. And I could go into the reason for that, but I think I'm short on time, so if anybody wants to ask later. This is a really great fan. A ceiling fan makes you feel about maybe 5 degrees cooler, 4 to 5 degrees cooler than you would if you didn't have that air movement. But only if you're feeling air movement. If you're not in the room, turn it off. Because these little motors here are not 100% efficient. So maybe 15% of the energy that you're spending to turn that blade is coming into your living space in the form of electric heat. And you don't want to run electric heaters in the summertime. So always turn them off when you leave. So solar is great. You do a whole bunch of things to save energy, and then maybe you've got enough bill left over to cover the rest of it with solar and get closer to net zero. If your bill is averaging maybe 100 a month or more, again, it depends. It's going to be cost effective. And the bigger your bill, the more cost effective it is. East and west roof directions are fine. I won't go into a lot of detail there, but an east or west, depending on the slope of the roof, is going to be somewhere around 84 to 88% of the energy that you get facing due south, with a south-facing roof. Not too shady is good. Roof-mounted systems have the benefit of being a little cheaper. Ground-mounted systems cost a little bit more, but you don't have to remove them when you go to re-roof, and they're easy to clean off when you get lots of pollen like you do this time of year. But there's advantages and disadvantages to both. Payback is typically 4 to 7 years. A return on investment of around 15 to 22%. That's a little bit better than the 1/4 to 2% that we're getting with other investments out there. Long-term warranties of 25 years are common now. With solar, you really have to be aware of being oversold. I won't overemphasize that. I can't overemphasize that enough. But with solar, you can cover space heating, water heating, and as well as transportation. And I could say a lot more about that, but short on time and lots and lots of things to cover.